I can't help but find some meaning that in 2024, you're looking at me making the alien very proud that you used practical effects, that these came from humans.
The benefits are multiple. One is the performances. When the actor has this thing right in his face, drooling and snapping at them, believe me, for way better performance than if you have a tennis ball in their face.
I was reading a couple of conflicting things. One, I read that you had your own story for a new Alien film, and I also heard that you were approached about making a new Alien film. Which one is it?
No, well, there was. This is a story. I don't know what the version of it, but as I finished Don't Breathe, my second film, and I met at Scott Free, which is Ridley's company. And at the time,
Ridley Scott's company.
Yeah. And Ridley was starting to do Covenant, which is the last one that came out like 6-7 years ago. And I just, I was curious about what they were doing, what were they going to do. At that point, the one that Neil Blomkamp was going to do kind of fell apart, and Ridley was starting with Covenant. And just as a fan, I was like, oh, I hope we get to see this and that. And, I was like what? And I was like, I feel like, after Prometheus, and it would be great to kind of take the story and it wasn't that I was pitching. I was just talking as a fan, two fans talking. I was
to Ridley Scott.
No, to his producer at the time.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And he kind of heard it. He actually asked me to write a page. I wrote a page of the basics of the story, which is basically the movie we made today in a nutshell. And Ridley read it, loved it, but he was like, I'm going to do Covenant now. I can't do this now. And so it didn't happen at the time. But and then in 2020, the head of 20th Century heard about that story, that I once went there and pitched an alien story, which wasn't quite that, but that's what he heard.
Sure.
And so he called me and asked me if it was true. He was like, "It's true? Yeah, you pitched a story." I was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Can I hear it?" I was like, "Sure." And I told him what it was, and he asked me, would you like to direct and write it? And I was like, absolutely. And so here we are. That's how we went there.
Were you the dog who caught the car? Like, did you have this idea that it would be fun to do a new Alien movie in sort of the back of your mind, and then they say yes, and then you start to think, oh, now I actually have to do it? Like, how did you feel when you actually were tasked with doing it?
I was so thrilled.
Really?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, people really ask that all the time. So how do you feel about the pressure and this and that? But the reality is that if you truly love it, there's no that such thing. The whole mind, the dark, the bad side, the flip, the pressure, and also you should never let fear come into the process, the creative process. The fear is the enemy of creativity. You will never do a good job. So I'm good at being very negligent and not think about it, right?
But where does that come from? Because I would understand your answer better if this was. If this movie was called, Bench, and you wrote Bench, and it was an original, and there was no history, there was no movie called Bench 1 that came out in '79 that changed audiences forever. I mean, and also like Evil Dead, like, one of the more like the respected and most talked about and cult franchises in the world. Like, with all respect to you, your answer would make more sense to me I don't feel any pressure, I don't feel any fear. If you didn't have a history.
I do feel it now that you're about to see it. Now I do. Now I come to my senses and go like, what the fuck have I done? That it does. But I'm lucky enough that's happened at the time, which is very similar to, I had this great conversation with James Cameron when I was starting to write the story, right? I was lucky enough to meet him. He liked Don't Breathe because my actor is on also an Avatar. So anyway, I got to meet him. It's one of my idols, and we changed some emails. And by the time Alien is happening, I reached out to him. I was like, hey, I have some questions about the script for Aliens that you wrote. And he was like, yeah, let's talk all about it. So we had a great call. And on that conversation, he was telling me his experience of making Aliens, right? And he was like, oh, like I really went in like a young man, a bit arrogant. I've been going like, I'm going to show Ridley how you really do this movie. And went into Aliens with that spirit, right? And he was like, I think the first one was good, but I could do better. That was kind of, Cameron, but it sounds like Cameron, right? He was like,
I met him before. This doesn't sound crazy.
Exactly. He goes like, okay, I'll do it. I don't care. I can do better, and I'll show that guy how it's done. And Cameron's story was that after he finished it, and he's in tunnel vision, right? I'm gonna make this movie. And by the time he said his opening night, the print is fresh. He just put it. No one has seen it yet, and it's a full theater. Everybody's about to see it, and that's when he goes like, he tells me, I realized, what the fuck have I done? The first movie is a masterpiece. How do you even dare to touch this? And the movie started playing, and he says there's not a sound in the theater, and he was like, oh God, what have I done in the shame? And then he said, finally, Sigourney comes out in the power loader and goes like, get away from her, you bitch. And that's when the theater erupts, and he was like, oh God damn it. Thank God. It was worth it.
Have you had that yet? Have you had your own moment of that yet?
Yeah, we did, yeah, actually. We did the only screening that we did, it was actually when the movie wasn't done. It was kind of when we did the test screening of the first cut in a way, when there's no visual effects and there's no CG whatsoever, and it's a testament of how little CG the movie needed. That even in that shape, people could watch the whole movie and enjoy it. And we had a similar thing actually. Towards the end, there's a moment where you expect to have a great reaction for the audience, and it was quite quiet for most of it. And then on that moment, the whole theater erupted in a massive cheer. And I was like, "Oh, thank God!
Okay, I did it.
We have him. We have him."
And Ridley, who's executive producer,
He's a producer.
Yeah. He's seen it. And
You
screened it for. Were you there when he saw it?
Yeah, no. He wanted to watch it alone. I wanted him to be the first one to see it. And I sent it to him before anybody. As soon as I had a cut, I was like, okay, I need Ridley, before the studio sees it, before anybody sees it, I need Ridley to watch it. And I'll go there like a man, and I'll take it. I'll take it. He'll tell me it's terrible, whatever. He's famous for being really tough.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know with the story with Blade Runner. He was vocal about the thing he didn't like about the movie.
Yeah, he doesn't care. He doesn't care.
No, I wish we all could get there in our life with that place. We just don't care, so whatever comes to mind. But you have to earn it, obviously. So he did. But I wanted him to watch it. He watched it in the theater, and after that, right after that, it was a room like this one at a table, and I was just there waiting. I had a notepad, a pen, sitting straight, waiting for him to come in, sit in front of me, and just tell me how to, what to do better. That it was not to get a pat in the back or anything. There's no point in that. And he walked in, he looked at me, he sat down, and he was like, what can I say? It's fucking great. With that tone, which, I don't know what it means. Still, I read into it a little bit. But he said that, he was like, and you have a massive movie here. Like, he really believed in it, which at the time, when you make it from the inside, it always feels small and, very personal, and you don't see the scope. But he really believed in the movie and its size and its chance to do great. So
you must have exhaled. You must have. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a really tense moment.
Can you tell me the story that so your film, in terms of the timeline, your film is set between Alien and Aliens, and the film was partly inspired by a deleted scene from Aliens of kids running around a space colony. For people who haven't seen it, can you talk us through that?
So on Aliens, on James Cameron movie, there's the movie starts and part of the story starts in this colony in space. It's supposed to be a shake and bake, they call them, like very quick colonies. They put a bunch of colonizers, atmosphere generator, and they wait 50 years for the colony to be ready to bring more people. And that's what they say in the movie. And there's a deleted scene. It's actually, you can see an extended version of Aliens, where they're in the offices, and you see a bunch of kids running around, like a bunch of really young kids, which you never see in this movie. It's rare for that movie, for the Alien movies, to see a bunch of kids. That's why it's probably not in the movie. It's rare to see them. And I was like, wow, it's so strange. Like, what would be growing up there? Like, those kids right there, they don't care because they're young and full of life. But once they're in their teens or 20s, they're going to rebel. No one's going to be on a planet that for 50 years there's nothing for you but being a miner or a farmer, right? And but I felt as well that's something that anybody can relate to. You don't have to be from there. I think I'm from Uruguay, and feeling you were born away from where things happen. And youth always wants to go to explore the world eventually. They want to go out of wherever is their small town. So that was something I felt that it was something I got to be excited about. Imagine those kids in their 20s and what would happen if they would if they want to get out of there. How far would they go to try to get out of there, and what kind of trouble they would get to try. If anybody was going to do something, that would get them in trouble, will be those kids, right?
There's something exciting about this movie featuring such young performers, right?
Yeah. Well, this hasn't been done above other things. Well, it's the adults, the space, the truckers in space. That's been done in the first one. It's been done many times, even in Covenant in the last one. So I felt like that was a good way for me, at least, to get excited about seeing something I haven't seen before, right?
Can you talk to me about the design of the alien? For those more familiar, the Xenomorph.
The Xenomorph.
That is something I did get to see in the parts of the film I got to see. Looked very in line with the first movies. Talk to me a little bit about how you wanted that to look. Because I want to talk to you about practical effects, but I want to start here.
So there's two parts of it. One is, the first thing is the design on paper, what it's going to be, how it's going to look like. And because he has evolved through the years. And one thing is what Ridley did in the first film, which is a purist design by H.R. Giger in the first film. Then Cameron took it and already changed some things to make it his own. He wanted to make it better and make changes. And then Fincher takes it and changes a bit more and so on and so forth. And Jean-Pierre Jeunet as well. So it kept evolving. And as the movies keep evolving, as they have, they must on a franchise. But I think it got too far away from what it was originally. And one of the first things was to take back that go back to that purist H.R. Giger-like design. It's very psychosexual.
Why?
Very biomechanical.
Why did you want to do that?
As a fan, I just think it's about the same way as if you think about your favorite band that keep playing, you want them to go back to those first two albums.
Yeah, you want to play the hits.
You want them. It's not even as to play it. You want them to record an album that kind of sounds like those first two, and back to the whatever it is that your band does. They probably don't do that thing anymore. They don't sound like that anymore because they have other pursuits. They're interested in other things. They usually don't want to do what they've done already. But, would it be great to have Pink Floyd right now going back and record albums that sound like those first three and they get together?
Wouldn't it be great to have Radiohead re-record it? They could do another OK Computer.
Exactly.
Wouldn't that be great? I understand.
It's the dream. But usually the artist wants to evolve from that, just like the franchise usually wants to evolve and keep going forward. And what I wanted was, if I had a say on it, to take it back there. So it's almost like that. I feel like if you're a music producer, it's like, okay, guys, take it back to the studio, just the four of you, only analog synthesizers, and see what happens, right? So this was the goal here. So I wanted to one of the big part, for the ones that pay attention to that, the big part was to kind of take back the Xenomorph to more of the original design, which is not exactly the original design. It will never be, right? It's like, but it's as close as it's been since the other movies, I would say.
You used practical special effects as much as you could, as opposed to CGI. That's something you mentioned to me about 10 minutes ago, and I have a couple of questions on that. What's the hardest part of that? I mean, I want to talk about what makes it great in a second, but what's the hardest part of making a film in 2024 using practical effects like this? Because I have to imagine CGI helps you skip some steps, helps you.
Well, definitely, yeah. It's quicker on the day. If the page is, the door opens and the creature comes in, all you have to shoot is a door opening. Very easy, right? Then someone else will grab it and do it in animation. But it's you have to remember that still CG means someone draw on top of the frame. It's still a drawing. It's a really good drawing, but it is a drawing. It's not real. Otherwise, it's not. So we. There's versions of CG that can be amazing, and I think we have in the movie some of the best CG we could have. We have the guy from ILM, and have Weta, which the Avatar movie is fantastic, and you've seen some of the work on the spaceships and the exterior shots, all that. But I think for close encounters and when you have an actor in front of a creature, nothing beats the real thing. Easy to say let's do it practical is the easy part. To actually execute it is the hardest part. Half of it is to create the creatures that look great, I went back to get all the guys that worked on Aliens that were in the early 20s.
Hold on, they're older now.
Yeah, they're in the 60s and they're the best at what they do. They're the same guys that did Jurassic Park eventually after that and through the years.
You brought them back. They got to relive their youth a little bit.
We got the band back together literally because that team separated and created different companies. I haven't worked together in a long time. And I got out of my way to hire them, all of them, and kind of got them to work together. So to have them under the table, puppeteering the things again.
Did they all get along?
Yeah. They always said that we're like brothers, that we got separated at some point. It was so happy for them to be able to be back together. And
I didn't know this at all. I didn't know. I mean, I knew you had people from the original film, but I didn't know it was the people.
Same people.
Oh, that's a beautiful thing.
You should look up photos. I'll show you photos of Shane Mayhem on the set, or Alec Gillies on the set of Aliens, and now on our set.
Cool.
They're the same guy. So that was the first part. People that love the Xenomorph, that understand it, and could build it. And this is the first time we built an action animatronic for one. In the past, it's been a guy in a suit, but we did animatronic. That was the first part. And the second half, which is the hardest part, is to shoot it and make it look good. It has to look good, and it's very easy to mess it up there and just make it look funky and weird and not real and dead, and those it's a whole art. It's kind of a lost art a little bit. Not a lot of people know how to do it, but thank God we have the ones that didn't. People that didn't know how to do it had to learn it. There's a lot of things that I need to learn, but I think if you see the footage, you've seen the chest burster in those scenes. There's zero CG on those scenes. That's all practical and very complex practical effects that I think everybody did a great job.
Is there something philosophical there? Like this is maybe a better question for someone who reviews your films or does like analysis of your films, but I don't know. I'll ask you anyway. Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about how in maybe 10 or 20 years ago, we wanted to use as much CG as we could. As a viewer, someone would tell me, hey, they did it all through CG and it's exciting. And I would be excited to go see it. I'd be excited to see what they could do with Avatar or what they could do, like what they could potentially make. I feel like similar to the conversation around like how I think with AI right now, we're all starting to question, do we really want AI to write our books? Do we really want AI to paint our paintings? Isn't there beauty in the human expression? I can't help but find some meaning that in 2024, you're looking at me making the Alien very proud that you used practical effects, that these came from humans.
Well, I'll put it this way. It transcends the conversation that if it looks better than CG or not. That's a waste of time. I could argue that it looks better, and someone's going to say, well, but that other movie had CG and looked great.
You're not interested in beating CG.
It's not really about that. The benefits are multiple. One is the performances. When the actor has this thing right in his face, drooling and snapping at them, believe me, for way better performance than if you have a tennis ball in their face. Way better. Doesn't matter how great the actor is. It just really influences their emotions, the interaction between the snap and the face and the wind and the split that hit their eye. The CG is not there, so none of those things happen. So that's the first part. There's a real interaction, a timing with the monster that is palpable, that you'll feel it and you see it in the movie. That's one part. And then there's the more spiritual part. But I think the audience wants to believe is there, wants to know, and needs it to be there. This is an example I always put with my co-writer. Let's say there's a band you love, and you're going to see them live, right? And I'd say, you got to see this band. Tell me a band I love, any band.
Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
Okay, you're going to see Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. He's alive. So you're going to see them. And right before you enter the concert, someone says, the performance today, all the sound is from last night's concert because they had a problem today with the sound. So but most people don't know. If the sound is from last night and they're playing live, could you ever tell the difference?
Probably.
You probably would. It's
if no one told
hard.
me, I probably wouldn't be able to tell. Yeah, exactly.
It sounds live. It sounds like this.
Yeah.
He's there. He's the same show, same order. You wouldn't tell the difference. Now, if you know it's not them performance, you'll ask for your money back. You'll be heartbroken. You'll be like, what? It's not real? So what is that about? It's the same sound. No one can tell the difference. Why would you care? Why would you even perform? That's the same. That is why it transcends the what's better or what's the difference. But I think the audience, as an audience, I want to know that thing was there and was chasing them. As soon as I know it wasn't really, they were running away from nothing. Yeah, it's kind of heartbreaking.
Is that the spiritual thing you're talking about? We want to feel like there's an artist spirit in there.
Because movies has always been like war movies. You watch them and the old ones, you'll see there's real people and splashes and explosions and that's what a real cinematic experience is. The camera only is doing is capturing what actually happened in some day somewhere, and characters went through something. As soon as movies have become lately too much of a means to an end. The movie making process too much of a means to an end, where nothing is there. It's a green screen, shoot it out of order, so no one really knows what's going on. A lot of actors never know what the movie's about. Yeah. They just read their parts in the script and it's just doing it, and then one day they'll find out. So it defeats the whole purpose for me. So me, we shot this movie actually chronologically to go through the adventure. Day one, we're there. We woke up. We're in this world. What's going on? We walk in that direction. Let's go. We follow them with the camera. It's almost like I go through this adventure. My job is to shoot it and bring it to the audience.
Why do you believe in movies so much? Like, why do you, for a young guy,
It's an old man's thing.
Well,
to really believe in movies.
I tell you what it is. It's I am with you, and I'm a folk musician, so I'm all real strings and wood and all that stuff. So like you're talking to the right guy here. But I'd often talk to people who were like in their late 70s. I mean, I think I talked to Ridley about this, and we talked about but back in those days the movies used to be made this way. Back in those days the movies used to be made that way. Do you mind if I ask how old you are?
I'm 46 years old.
46 years old. And what I'm hearing is not that you're a Luddite. It's not that you're walking around with a big boot taking out CGI and protesting outside of Marvel. What I'm hearing is that you really believe in some kind of power of film and filmmaking.
I do. I always said this. And it is sacred for me, and I think for the audiences as well. I mean, for a certain audience as well, definitely. You go to the movies. The light goes out, and the logo for the studio shows up. And in that moment there, those first few seconds, right? Like the credit, whatever production. In that moment, I think this is the one that's going to change my life. This is the one. This movie's going to be incredible. 5 minutes in, you realize it's shit.
Yeah.
And go.
Dumb and Dumber too.
But I think, I sometimes wonder, why does that happen to me? Why do I care? But if I'm happily married for many years. But if I was in a dating circle, one of the times that I will date someone, you sit down at the table, you meet this person. The first few seconds, like, this is it, and they open their mouth and they order food, and you go, that's it, it's over. It's not gonna be it.
Yeah.
But why do you think that? Because it happened once. It happened at least once in your life. You fell in love that way. There was that person that came in and became this story. And it's far in your past. And with the movies, it's the same. It might have 2 or 3 times in your life. You watch a movie, it changed your life. It became your favorite thing ever until today. You think about it. You have T-shirts about it. Like, it's a whole thing. It's a religion. So all it takes is that 2 or 3 times that happen, and then all your life you chase in that feeling again. Now, probably for us that we're older, we realize that all those movies that we watch to change our life, we were probably 12 years old.
Yeah.
13, 14, maybe. I have a few in my 20s, but you still keep chasing that feeling. So because I believe in that, I want to give that to the audience. I really want to respect that and at least hold it together as long as I can. And hopefully it will change someone's life.
Do you know what I think? I think, and I know I just met you, but you said something earlier that I didn't pick up on, but I kind of clocked it away. You were talking about how when these characters, when you saw the deleted scene of the kids playing sports, and you thought, well, they're so far away from where they want to be, and you said very briefly, when I was growing up in Uruguay, I felt the same way. I felt very far away from where I needed to be, or at least I inferred that. Yeah. And I think this is a dangerous thing to say, but I'll say it. I think movies got you there.
Yeah, which I think is most people's experience with movies is escapist art. You go there and you experience the world through the movie, right? Whatever, it's an empathy machine. You're there and you completely connect with everybody, and the good ones at least do that to you. It's just they take you through an emotional ride and by the end of it, you feel the same things that the character might have felt and took you through a journey. So definitely is that. It takes you to places that if you have no means to go,
But for you, it did. You got to Hollywood. You got to live in the movies. It really happened.
Yeah, which is a miracle from Uruguay. And I never thought. You know the story?
No.
Okay. You want to hear it?
Your story?
Yeah.
Yeah. You too. I know a little bit of it. Tell me the story.
No, I was in all those short movies I was telling you. I was making with my friends. One day I did one that I put out in 2009. That was actually a lot of CG that I do myself. So I do love it when it's done well. And not that it was particularly good, but it was used in a way that it has to be used. And so when there's no other way, there's no alternative. Like I didn't have any alternative at the time. It was a story about massive robots destroying Montevideo, my city, like a big catastrophe short. And I finished, put it online, went to bed, woke up, and had 150 emails from Hollywood. They dragged me there overnight. Someone flew me there, and I met a producer on the streets. I was gonna have like weeks of meetings with everybody, and that's when I got my first movie deal. That ended up being to Evil Dead, but I never had the intention to go there. It was just they dragged me down there out of the short, and it was actually Kanye West that posted on his blog and made it very famous.
Kanye West posted on his blog.
Yeah, that's what the story is.
and that's what you, because I read when I was reading about you, I did read a version of that story, and I have to say I thought like, well, it must be a little bit more complicated than that. Oh my God, like he posted it.
The only reason I put it on YouTube was it was easier to send to my friends. There was no intention of making it viral or anything like that. You have to think that YouTube was 4 years old at the time. So it used to be a very small format, and it had just upgraded to HD. And I was like, oh, well, it looked good enough to send the link to my mom and show it to her. And I put it on YouTube, and it was there available, and it just caught fire overnight. It was great.
So here you are making the latest iteration of one of the movies that you were referencing when you were a kid making movies. Can I ask you this? As a storyteller, what's the lesson here? What's the lesson here that you made movies in Uruguay and you get flown on a, like in Ferris Bueller's Day Off and you're,
I don't know if it's a lesson. I think for filmmakers, when they ask me, it's something that I cannot translate to them, that I cannot give them, which is because I was growing up there and making movies in a place where actually there was no movie industry at the time. Now there's independent movies that got made, and there's a few a year, very small movies financed by the government. There's not an industry. There's not even an industry for big television shows of drama. So growing up there, the only reason why I did it was because I couldn't help it. The only reason. We did shorts. We watched it with my friends. We had a good time watching it. Let's make another one. Yay. And the same reason I make the one that brought me to Hollywood, just for the sheer pleasure of making it with no distraction of ideas that it was going to get anything out of it. I passed the test that if I was doing it for the right reasons. I was doing it for the right reasons. And I meet a lot of filmmakers in Hollywood, particularly young people, and they're asking, how can I break into the industry? That's the question they ask me all the time. I was like, dude, don't stop thinking about breaking into the industry, because that's what's affecting probably what you're doing. If you're doing something that you're trying to impress anybody with it, I was trying to impress probably my dad and my friends and whatever it was, but never as an industry or trying to get any money out of it. So I think that was the lesson for me. It helped me do it in a place where the realities of actually making a living out of it were non-existent. And then one day, thank God, they became real. But it's very hard in LA otherwise. If you're born there, you start doing things in places where there's actual industry. Very quickly, you'll be seduced by maybe I'll do this for a living.
And you lose the passion, you lose the joy,
you lose the focus. I think you're distracted by the things that, like we always joke with my co-writer, it's too much of an inside joke, but there's a Zoolander moment where they're trying to train him to how to kill the prime minister of Micronesia, whatever they call it, and they give him a bunch of rules. And one of them is like, don't get distracted by the beautiful celebrities, and they have these pop-ups of celebrities, and all these things are just a distraction of the artist's way. So that's the main goal I give, the main advice. Don't get distracted by the beautiful celebrities.
That's good advice for all of us. Congratulations on the film. Thanks for coming in, man.
Thank you so much. This was a pleasure.